we're now going to look at is probably the most implausible step in the story I told, which was the wise but ruthless leader who recognizes the need to limit his own power. He must become weak in order to become strong. And indeed, rather few thuggish leaders make that step. But I'm going to give you an example drawn from history of where that step made a huge difference. And sure enough, it's a war. All this, remember, is driven by war, violence, scale economies, fear. And this is a war between the most established military power in Europe and a bunch of wimps. And so this should be no contest. It's between the Habsburg Empire, this huge military machine, thug, son of thug, grandson of thug, great-grandson of thug, the Habsburgs, versus the first bourgeois society of Europe, the Netherlands. What that bourgeois society likes is paintings of the family in the drawing room. This is not a sort of society that's equipped to fight to the death, but that's what they end up having to do. And it looks a very, very unequal contest. The Habsburg Empire with its huge army versus this little corner of Europe with a bunch of bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie in the Netherlands have only one military advantage, but it's a purely defensive advantage. And that is that half of their country is below sea level and is protected by dikes. And in extreme circumstances of danger, they can open the dikes. This is a terrible thing to do. It floods the fields with salt water. It wrecks those fields for 20 years. And of course, it still doesn't win anything. It just makes it much harder for the Spanish army to move around. But what it produces is long periods of stalemate. And so the war drags on and on and on. It drags on so much that despite the huge resources that the Habsburgs are able to draw on from their Spanish Empire, all that gold bullion coming in, that the Habsburgs need to borrow. And so they go to their bankers and say, lend us some money. And the bankers, Emperor, yes, oh great Emperor, we'd love to lend you money. But of course they're scared, because will the Habsburgs choose to pay them back? Maybe, maybe not. Yeah. It's a choice. Meanwhile, the Netherlands, they've got a leader, the Prince of Orange, but he's only got limited power. There's a parliament that controls the budget, the parliament of the wealthy. They're running out of money too. Both leaders have to go to the money markets to borrow money. And here's the difference. In the Netherlands, rich people know that they control the budget. Whatever else this budget is going to be spent on is going to be spent on paying them back, because that's their decision. And in the Habsburg Empire, perhaps not. It depends upon which side of the bed the emperor gets out tomorrow, you know. And so what happens is a differential in the interest rates that these guys have to pay opens up. The Habsburgs are paying up to 20% interest rates on the money they borrow. And the Dutch are paying as low as 5%. Now, interest rates have a horrible habit of compounding. And this war goes on and on and on. And so the Habsburg debt gets bigger and bigger and bigger and goes through the roof. As a result of which they default, the Habsburgs decide, oh, we won't pay it back, which of course makes the problem even worse when you go back and say, please lend me some more money. And so in the end, the Dutch win. This bunch of bourgeois wimps defeats the biggest military machine in Europe. Not in the sense of being able to invade Spain or Austria, but in the sense of being able to become independent. So that's the power of, in order to become strong, you need to become weak.